Okay, let's dive in. Negotiation. It's not just for big deals, is it?
No, not at all. We're doing it all the time, often without even realizing it.
Right, like what's for dinner, or who gets the remote, or, getting more time on a deadline.
Absolutely. And I think the default for most people is, okay, how do I win this? Or maybe, how do we just split it 50-50?
Yeah, the classic compromise. But what if? What if thinking like that is actually the problem?
That's exactly what we're looking at today. This idea that if you're focused on winning, you might actually be setting yourself up to, well, lose out in the bigger picture.
Lose out how?
Well, you might get a slightly better deal this time, but damage the relationship. Or you end up with these lukewarm compromises where nobody's really happy.
Okay, so this deep dive, we're looking at a different way. A framework from the Harvard Negotiation Project, right?
That's the one. We're digging into the core lessons from Getting to Yes, the book by Uri and Fisher, based on the source material we have.
And the goal for you listening is what? To get some tools.
Essentially, yeah. To give you a new lens, a practical framework, to find solutions that actually work for everyone. Solutions that feel, smart and fair.
And the source material hits this point hard right away. It basically says, forget winning or losing.
Yeah, it's quite provocative. It says, if you're even asking who's winning, you've already missed the point.
Missed the point. How so?
Because the real goal isn't to beat the other person. It's to find a way forward that satisfies both sides' underlying needs, ideally without wrecking the connection you have.
Okay, that's a big shift. How do you even start doing that? The material had some examples that really stuck with me.
Oh yeah, the stories are great illustrations. They show how moving from just what people say they want to why they want it opens things up.
Like the library window one, that was brilliant.
Ah yes, the classic. Two people, one wants the window open, the other wants it shut.
One wants fresh air, the other's worried about a draft blowing his papers around.
Yeah.
Obvious conflict.
And the typical solution might be, okay, crack it open halfway.
Right, the compromise. But then one person's still stuffy, and the other's papers are still rustling. Neither is really satisfied.
Exactly. But the librarian, she didn't focus on open versus closed the positions. She asked why. And she found out one needed air, the other needed no draft right there. So she opened a window in a different room.
Boom. Fresh air comes in, no draft on the papers, both get 100% of what they actually needed.
It wasn't about the window itself, it was about air and paper stability, like you said before we started recording.
Yeah. It's amazing how often we argue about the wrong thing.
Totally. Or the cake example. How do you divide a cake fairly without arguing?
The source suggests that clever rule. One person cuts, the other chooses first.
Simple but elegant, right?
Huh.
It uses a fair process, an objective standard instead of subjective debate. The cutter has to be fair because you get the remaining piece.
Okay, that makes sense. And then there was the orange.
Ah, the orange. So good. Two kids, one orange, big fight.
Parent comes in, wants to be fair, cuts it exactly in half. Seems reasonable.
Super reasonable on the surface. But one kid eats the fruit, chucks the peel. The other scrapes off the peel for baking, throws out the fruit.
They didn't even want the same part of the orange.
Exactly. If the parent had just asked why the underlying interest, one could have had all the fruit, the other all the peel. A perfect outcome, not just 50% of the object.
Wow. Okay, these stories really show the power of digging deeper. And the source material doesn't just leave it at stories, does it? It lays out a framework.
It does. A clear 4-step framework to get to those wise and practical solutions.
Okay, let's walk through it. What's step one?
The first principle, building right off those examples, is separate the people from the problem.
Easier said than done, I imagine.
Oh, definitely. It's so easy to see the person as the problem. Their stubbornness feels personal, right?
Yeah, or their demand feels like they're attacking me.
Exactly. And then emotions flare, we stop listening, we misinterpret things.
Yeah.
The idea here is to draw a mental line. The person is over here, the issue we need to solve is over there.
So you're tough on the issue, but not on the person.
That's the mantra. Be soft on the person, hard on the problem. Too often we're soft on both, or worse, hard on both, which just destroys the relationship and doesn't solve anything.
Okay, soft on the person, hard on the problem. Like you're working together against the problem, not against each other.
Precisely. And a really practical tip the material gives. Build rapport before you even start negotiating, if you can.
Like just chatting beforehand?
Yeah, arrive a bit early, make small talk, find some common ground. Studies apparently show it significantly boosts the chances of success. It humanizes the process.
Okay, that makes sense. So number one, separate the people from the problem. What's next?
Number two is what we saw with the orange and the window. Focus on interests, not positions.
Right. Positions are the what I want the window open, interests are the why I need fresh air.
Exactly. Positions are usually pretty clear, but often rigid, like demands. Interests are the hidden drivers, the needs, desires, fears, concerns behind those demands.
Like wanting a certain salary, that's the position. But the interest might be security or recognition or needing to cover specific costs.
Perfect example. And the other side has their interest too, maybe budget limits or internal fairness or needing certain skills. Understanding those underlying whys on both sides is crucial.
But how do you uncover those? People don't usually just announce their deepest interests.
You have to ask, gently probe, ask why. Or help me understand why that's important to you. And crucially, you have to really listen.
Show you understand their side first.
Yes. The material makes a strong point that people are way more likely to consider your interests if they feel you've genuinely tried to grasp theirs. It builds trust.
Okay, so separate people problem. Focus on interests, not positions. We understand the people and the real issues. Then what?
Then comes the creative part. Invent options for mutual gain.
Ah, brainstorming time.
Exactly. Don't just assume it's a fixed pie you have to divide. Look for ways to make the pie bigger or find completely different kinds of value for each side.
Like the orange realizing they valued different parts meant they weren't actually competing for the same limited resource.
Precisely. The difference in their interests created the possibility of a 100% win-win. The key here is to separate generating ideas from judging them.
So just get everything out on the table first. No, that's dumb aloud initially.
Right. Brainstorm freely, maybe even together. Wild ideas welcome. Then, after you have a list, you start evaluating. Don't shoot things down too early.
And differences aren't always bad here.
Often they're opportunities. Maybe one side cares more about getting it done fast, the other cares more about the payment terms. You can trade things that you value differently.
Okay, cool. Invent options. What's the last pillar?
The fourth provides the guardrails for making a choice. Insist on using objective criteria instead of a battle of wills, my way. No, my way.
Yeah.
Find some external, fair standard you can both agree on to measure the options.
Like the cake cutting procedure? That was a fair process. Exactly. Or it could be market data, scientific judgment, professional standards, legal requirements, precedent. Things outside of your personal opinions.
So instead of I want $6, it's what does the industry benchmark say? Or what have similar houses sold for?
Precisely. It shifts the discussion from subjective demands to objective fairness. It depersonalizes it. You're saying, let's agree based on the standard, not agree because I want you to.
Makes sense. Do your homework beforehand to find potential criteria.
Good idea, yeah. Be prepared with some suggestions.
Okay, so those are the 4 pillars. Separate people problem, interests, not positions. Invent options, objective criteria. That sounds like a solid plan for a reasonable negotiation.
It does, but
But what happens when the other side isn't being reasonable? What about dirty tricks or power imbalances or just plain personal attacks? The material addresses that too, right?
oh yeah, and it definitely gets into the trenches. Because reality isn't always cooperative.
So dirty tricks first. Things like lying or psychological games or refusing to budge just to wear you down. The first step, the material suggests, is simply to recognize the tactic. Just naming it in your own head can lessen its impact.
And then do you call them out on it? Like, hey, stop lying.
You can, but often more subtly. The advice is to raise the tactic itself as an issue to be negotiated. Focus on the process.
How would that sound?
Maybe something like, I'm noticing we seem to be playing a bit of good cop, bad cop here. Can we just talk directly about the issues?
You name the tactic, question its legitimacy, but without a direct accusation of bad faith.
Or like the example you gave earlier, this glare is making it hard to focus, not you deliberately sat me facing the sun.
Exactly. Focus on the problem the tactic creates for the negotiation, not their supposed intent.
Okay. What about power? When you're genuinely up against someone much stronger, bigger company, more resources.
That's where your BATNA is absolutely critical.
BATNA. Best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Your plan B.
Your plan B. What'll you do if you can't reach a deal here? Knowing that and strengthening that alternative before you negotiate is your main source of power. So having another job offer in your pocket when negotiating salary.
Exactly. That's a strong BATNA.
Yeah.
It means you can walk away if the current offer isn't good enough. Without a BATNA, you're negotiating out of desperation almost.
So your power isn't just status, it's your ability to walk away to something else decent.
Precisely. Develop your BTNA. Know it, protect it. It's your safety net and your leverage.
Got it. And the really tough one, personal attacks. When they stop discussing the issue and start criticizing you.
Yeah, that's when it gets really hard to stick to the principles.
Yeah.
The instinct is to defend, attack back.
And suddenly you're just yelling at each other.
Right. Total derailment. The material calls the alternative negotiation jujitsu.
Jujitsu, like using their force against them?
Kind of. You don't meet the attack head on. You sidestep and redirect. 3 main techniques they suggest.
Okay.
First, if they attack your idea or state a hard position, don't push back directly. Instead, look behind it. Ask why they feel that way. Treat their attack as an opportunity to understand their underlying interests.
So if they say, your proposal is ridiculous, you don't argue it's brilliant, you ask.
What specifically concerns you about it? Or help me understand why you see it that way. You turn their attack into a quest for information.
Okay, clever. What's second?
Second, if they're just shooting down everything you suggest, ask for their advice.
Ask the attacker for advice.
Yeah. Something like, okay, you don't like my approach. If you were facing my constraints and goals, what would you suggest? It pulls them into problem-solving mode, makes them consider your perspective.
Shifts the dynamic. And the third technique?
Third, if they criticize your idea, invite more criticism, but make it specific. Ask, what's wrong with that part specifically? Or how could that element be improved?
So instead of defending, you're digging for constructive feedback, even from an attack.
Exactly. You're using their negative energy to refine options or uncover hidden interests. You refuse to play the attack-defend game.
Wow. Okay, so negotiation jujitsu. Look behind attacks, ask for advice, invite criticism. It's about redirecting, not resisting.
That's the essence of it.
This is a really comprehensive approach. We've gone from the big mindset shift, moving past win-lose, through the 4 core pillars.
Separate people problem, interests, not positions. Invent options. Use objective criteria.
And then into handling the tough stuff, like tactics, power imbalances with your BATNA, and personal attacks using that jujitsu idea.
And the thread connecting it all, really emphasized in the material, is that this isn't about manipulation. It's not a trick.
It feels more like finding a better way to solve problems together.
Exactly. It's fundamentally about creating more value and finding solutions that are sustainable because they genuinely meet everyone's core needs, rather than just fighting over scraps.
Which brings us back to that story you mentioned, the one from the source about Hyde Park.
Oh, right. London, 1964.
Yeah.
Father and son playing Frisbee, which was apparently unknown there then. People gathered to watch.
And finally, some guy comes up, totally confused, and asked,
Excuse me, I've been watching for ages. Who's winning?
And the point the material draws from that is, if you're asking who's winning in a negotiation, like asking it about a marriage,
You've fundamentally misunderstood the whole activity.
the goal isn't to score points against the other side. The goal is the collaborative process itself, finding that shared solution that works.
It's about satisfying interests together.
So a final thought for everyone listening. Next time you're heading into a disagreement, big or small, maybe catch yourself if you start thinking about winning. Ask instead, how can we both get what we really need here? How might focusing on collaboration, not competition, change the whole game?